By very nature of the fact that you're watching this channel, I assume that you understand that a lot of car enthusiasts love a car that has fundamental flaws, because they are the cars that are characterful. They're the ones you remember. They're the ones you embrace. Take the Land Rover Defender, for example, a fantastic car in so many ways, but also an appalling car in many ways. And that is why a company like this exists. And the company in question is Twisted, up here in North Yorkshire. And Twisted have spent the last 20-something years perfecting the recipe of Britain's favourite off-roader, the Land Rover Defender. They make it go around corners, they make it luxurious, they make it go fast, all the things that it never really did. And that's all they do. They just do Defenders. Or do they? Because now they've just announced this. The Suzuki Jimny by Twisted. This is their next model, and it isn't a Land Rover, of course, at all. And this is the purpose of today's episode. I'm Jonny Smith, you're watching The Late Break Show, and this episode is proudly supported by blackcircles.com, Britain's largest online tyre retailer. So Charles, obviously, I've actually never been to Twisted before, but I know the name. The name is synonymous with these things.
Yeah.
You are like Defender. In fact, didn't you buy like loads of the last of the Defenders?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. When Defender was in production, we were at that point we were probably going through about 60 new ones a year.
Yeah.
So when they stopped or announced they were going to stop, we needed stock to carry us through. So we ordered some.
What, like, how many?
4 years worth, so 240.
Wow.
They actually lost one in the process, so we got 239.
They lost one?
Yeah, they did, yeah. Ultimately, Defender is our business. It's what we've done for 20 odd years. And it will always be the core of the business.
Yeah.
But there are other similar analogue, entertaining vehicles out there that I'd like to just do a bit of something with. And the natural, well, it's not very British, but the natural addition and second vehicle is Jimny.
I was going to say,
makes you feel the same way.
So have you had a relationship with Jimny prior to this?
Not so much Jimny, but Suzuki SJ and LJ back 30 odd years ago.
Yeah.
And actually, you shouldn't do this, but if you jump in this and shut your eyes while you're driving it, you could be in an old SJ. Yeah. It makes the same noises, it feels the same, it's got the same sort of quirks about it.
So this is the first non-Land Rover thing that Twisted's put its name to.
First automotive non-Land Rover thing, yeah.
Oh yeah, because you're building boats now as well.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realise until a few weeks ago.
We took the Twisted mentality into marine about 2.5-3 years ago.
Right.
And it's been quite exciting actually, doing some different stuff there.
So a bit of boats and then the Jimny.
Yeah.
So, because I mean, these things now, some of the prices that they command, some of the money people are willing to spend on reinventing them is massive.
I think to a point, it doesn't actually make any sense, but just the same way that a £20 million Ferrari doesn't make sense to most people.
Yeah.
But to the 1 or 2 or 5 people in the world that want that thing, it's totally logical.
Yeah.
They've probably got the automated normal car as well, or a few of.
Yeah.
But this thing just fits a certain part of their lifestyle.
This is the character car thing, right? Because I always think, having owned one of these, it's a character car.
Yeah.
It's quite honest.
Jimny, Defender, it won't be the quickest journey. It won't be the most economical journey. But it absolutely will be
a memorable journey.
A proper journey, you know?
Yeah. So you've taken, I mean, obviously these are still in production. So you've taken the commercial Jimny and you've made it, quicker? You've made it...
We've used the same thinking we use with Defender. The base vehicles have flaws.
Yeah.
We're not trying to iron out every wrinkle. We're not trying to polish out the character.
Yeah.
We just want to make them a bit better.
Yeah.
And a bit more fun and a bit more engaging. So standard Jimny's 100 horsepower, They whine like hell through the transmission. They're noisy. They bobble about. You know, the last thing you want is a truck overtaking you. And it generally does overtake you. You're not overtaking it, generally.
Yes, power is not the Jimny's forte.
But they're designed to do a certain thing in a certain way and built at a certain price. But it's a proper analog four-wheel drive. Sort the suspension, make it handle a bit better, make it turn in better, make it a bit quieter, make it a bit more comfortable, and give it some more power. They're the key things.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't build hundreds. You know, we build, I don't know, probably 15 or 20 new ones a year. That's all.
Okay.
And when I say new, that's a complete build. Could be 1,500 hours, 1,200 hours on a ramp.
Yeah.
It's always one man, one build. So we're not a production line. Nick will start on a vehicle and finish on a vehicle.
Right.
Maybe 4 months, 5 months later.
Wow.
Right the way down the workshop.
Yeah. So the customer basically turns up and says, I've either already got a Defender or I want a Defender.
Yeah.
And I've seen what you can do and I want that engine, those wheels, that kind of upholstery.
And often a customer will let us lead them. So they kind of know where they want to get, but they're not sure how to get there.
Yeah.
Every Defender we build, every Twisted has a certain underpinning. There's certain things we do to every single one.
Yeah.
And when we've done those things, it gets a plaque.
Yeah.
If we only do 1 or 2 of those things, it doesn't get a plaque. It's just a conversion.
I see.
So people do send them in for a bit of suspension and one of our power upgrades or something, because they see that we know what we're doing and you create a great product.
Yeah.
But they don't want to go the whole way, so they do bits, which is absolutely fine because you can improve the vehicle dramatically.
I'm interested to see how many Land Rover people end up with a Jimny, if that's a thing.
I was blown away when we first made a bit of noise about Jimny. I think we had 55 expressions of interest within a week, and of those, probably 20 were existing Defender owners.
Really?
Yeah.
That
just saw, not as a replacement, as an addition.
As an addition, right. Okay.
You know.
That is cool. So what is the Twisted Jimny exactly? Well, first things first, Suzuki no longer sell the Jimny passenger car. So this is strictly a commercial vehicle, which means you obviously can claim VAT back if you buy it through a business, but it also means it is a 2-seater with a much bigger flat loading deck on the back. Now, I've obviously owned a Jimny, or my wife did, and I've lived with it for 3 years, and I've always been a massive Jimny fan, which is why I wanted to see what Twisted have done with this. The biggest thing they've done with it is under there, and I'll talk about that in a second. But at the front, design-wise, it has the original grille still, which is got the big Suzuki S on it, and that is now body-coloured along with the front caps of the wing mirrors. You can obviously get aftermarket grilles aplenty as well. Then you come around here, because it's still got the black plastic bumpers that are really durable and the arch extensions. Down here, things get very interesting, because one of the bold claims of this Twisted Jimny is the fact that it feels more solid and composed. It's quieter by over 50%. And that is done because midway down, it has loads more soundproofing. So it's supposed to be a much more refined drive inside, but also the suspension. If you look inside the arches at the front, and there's plenty of room in there because we have bigger wheels and tyres, there are now Bilstein shock absorbers, and there are now IBAC springs, meaning that the car now handles a little bit better. It's less wallowy, basically. And instead of the 15-inch steel wheels that the Suzuki Jimny commercial comes on, it's now got 16-inch. These are Japanese-made rims that are on here, simple 5-spoke, shod in BF Goodrich 215/70 16s, which really add a bit of height to the car as well as a bit more grip. Now, when it comes to needing new tyres for your car, whether you're an off-roader or otherwise, go to blackcircles.com.
Head to the Black Circles website, enter your vehicle registration number and your postcode, and then you'll find the most suitable tyres for your car and your budget. There are thousands of reviews of different tyres from real customers to help you choose the best tyres for your car. And with the Black Circles Click and Fit service, with over 2,000 tyre fitting partners, there will be a garage or a mobile tyre fitter conveniently located near you.
It feels really good to be back in a Jimny. There is a charm to them. They are a character car, and a bit like what Charles said, like a Defender, they are a heavily flawed item, but they're characterful. And there's a lot to like about a Jimny, I think. There's even more to like when you do this and you hear this. Because this thing has actual power, which the original Jimny in standard form simply doesn't. It feels... it's appropriately JDM feeling. So 165 brake horsepower as opposed to 100, and instantly makes such a vast difference, especially over 3,000. And you know, I'm going through some quite narrow back lanes here, because in Yorkshire where I am, Jimnys have always been really popular because they fit on the road. But this, it still feels Jimny-like, it really does. You know, this, remember, it still has a steering box. It's one of the few brand new cars that has a steering box. But yet, you've lost that really top-heavy kind of lateral lollop that you get on the standard Jimny, which is comfortable but very roly-poly. These IMAX springs and the Bilstein dampers, which are a winning combination on so many different cars that I've driven over the years, and or resto mods, it does firm it up nicely, but without it feeling like you're trying to be something that you can't. That's so much more impressive. That 3,000 to 4.5 is transformative. It just doesn't feel like... just feels eager, whereas the old Jimny, you just had to immediately get in the car with a mindset of you've kind of got to drive it flat out everywhere, but it won't feel aggressive. It'll just feel like it's what you kind of have to do. Remember, the Jimny only weighs about a ton. It's 1,050 kilos from memory. It is an exceptionally light vehicle, which bodes well for not just MPG, but also the fact that it doesn't get stuck and bogged down in mud very easily, and it especially doesn't when it's got things like BF Goodrich all-terrain tyres. So this stage 1 turbocharger kit nearly halves the 0 to 62 time. And I can totally believe that. When we get out onto some bigger roads, I'll hopefully uncork it a bit more. But it was the thing I was really considering as a Jimny owner. It needed more pep. And the visibility in a Jimny, because these pillars are so thin, I've always enjoyed the way you can just position it where you want it. And I know that they've acoustically upgraded it so that it's a quieter place to be, but you're getting a lot of turbo. I'm pretty sure this is a standard exhaust. Turbo's just there, isn't it? And the metal on the Jimny is not thick metal, hence the curb weight. But it's okay because it's a Japanese little thing. You get the JDM snuffle. It's cool, isn't it? The original Jimny doesn't have an anti-roll bar at the back, it does at the front. So that is precisely what has been added by Twisted, and that's supposed to have transformed the way the thing rolls on the main road. Because most of these cars are going to be used on the road, but they still have to perform off-road, and that's kind of the balance, really. Styling-wise, at the side, I mean, forget the decals, there is a decal kit available already, and of course you can add all manner of things, and this is the thing about Twisted and the aftermarket in general. You can customise these things and go to town as far as you want. My personal Jimny had a bit of a tray roof on it with some LED spotlights going on. If you haven't seen what we did to our project Jimny, I will put a link above my head right now. But by far the biggest transformation of the Twisted Jimny is performance. Its 0 to 60 time is halved, and it has more than half the power again than what the standard 100 horsepower car came with. So bear in mind, the reason why the Jimny passenger car was removed from sale was because of emissions in that department. The commercial one can keep going, but one of the biggest problems the Jimny had was, considering it's a 1.5 four-cylinder engine, it put out a measly 98 horsepower. It was very, very slow. and lacking in torque, I would say. But what Twisted have done is they've worked with some guys in Dubai, and they've worked with some guys over here for ECU purposes and turbo purposes, because that is a turbocharger. There's a Garrett turbo now, which I think it always needed. And there's an intercooler set up here and just back there. And it's all mounted really high so you can still go off-roading. And it now has an ECU by Syvex. So that package there allows you to have 165 horsepower. So yeah, about 65 odd horsepower more than the standard car, which should feel significant on the road. Well, and off-road, I guess, as well. As is always the way with Twisted vehicles, if you buy a few bits and bobs to add on to your car from them, you don't get the Twisted plaque. But if it's a full Twisted build, like this Jimny is, you get a made in Yorkshire metal Twisted plaque. Now open the door in the back of the Jimny, and there's not a lot to look at. In fact, it doesn't look like it's been changed at all on the face of it, but that's sometimes the Twisted way. Look at that. That is carefully leather embossed and stitched, rather than it just being a cheap scratchy plastic item. And the same with these side panels here that go over the wheel arches. This is all now stitched in leather, perforated there because behind there and at the front is an audio upgrade. So again, it is quite subtle. If you're going to put a dog in here that destroys everything, it might not be a great idea, but the smell in here is really good. And the thing about the Twisted cars is, I guess, the people that want this sort of thing, they understand the Twisted mentality. That's not meant to sound derogatory, you know what I mean. Welcome to Yorkshire, a national park. Has anybody got a tissue? Gonna need it. Not like that. Not like that. Yeah, this is the real test. 1800 RPM, climbing a hill. In the old Jimny, you've got no torque. I mean, it was a real struggle. I think it was 130 Newton meters. But now I can put my foot down and you'll get that necessary boost. Makes such a big difference. I love the way it drives. I think it just drives so much better. This suspension, this drivetrain upgrade, it's a yes from me. So yeah, if I had the choice of driving a sorted Jimny versus a Twisted Defender, I'd drive a Twisted Jimny. I'm just more of a Jimny guy. This thing fits where I drive, and unless I'm towing anything that weighs more than about 300 kilos, yeah, I'll stick with a Jimny, please. Although I have a podcast partner who would disagree with me, I think. His name is Richard. If you didn't know, I have a podcast every Monday called Smith and Sniff. I'll put a link in the description for it. I mean, it's the UK's #1 automotive podcast, I'm just saying. Anyway, so second gear, climbing quite a steep hill. In the old Jimny, you would be in trouble now. Now I can put my foot down and it just keeps breathing and pushing. Keeps breathing, keeps pushing. By the way, one thing I have noticed, you hear that I've had to sort of like pull away with the revs quite high. I've noticed with this, I've stalled it 3 times. You can't pull away with really, really low revs. It just isn't happy. The standard engine is a bit like that, but I think this is just a little bit more peaky. I don't know whether that's to do with ECU mapping. I suggest it probably is. As soon as you open the door to the Twisted Jimny, you are greeted with luxury. You've got 2-tone stitched leather. In this instance, you've got the sort of square finish. You don't have to have this finish. The point of these sorts of cars, the point of Twisted, is you can kind of customize them however you want. But you can see this whole theme goes from the door cards to the seats here. Twisted embossed name there. That's leather. There, 2-tone again. This is like a soft touch finish on these dial clusters, but you can see there's some indentations there, and there's some indentations I noticed there. What they are is that's where the big Allen bolts, exposed Allen bolts are on the Jimny for taking things like the handles off, which I actually quite like, but these have been disguised. with much softer finish accoutrement. So it's beautifully finished in here. And of course, if you've seen my video on the Jimny that we owned, it has things like accessory extra cubby holes and things down here, because the aftermarket for Jimnys is massive. So the twisted audio upgrade that I mentioned, the speaker perforations in the back, they're here as well, because in the Suzuki Jimny commercial version, you can't order it with the upgraded touchscreen infotainment system, which is why this is more basic here. This is different to the passenger car, which you can't buy anymore. So as a result, there's an Alpine double DIN unit with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and all that shenanigans. And of course, for those of you that aren't familiar with Jimnys, you'll notice the door card is really sort of flush and basic, and that's because all of the electric windows are inboard to give you a little bit more leg and arm room, unlike an original Defender. And also Alcantara roof, look, it's so strokeable. It's so strokeable in here. There is no Jimny available with a sunroof, before you ask. There we go, 62. It's a transformed beast compared to an NA engine Jimny. It really is a transformed beast. And if it still does half decent MPG, then that is a brilliant drivetrain transformation. It is really good, I like that. One thing I'm really pleased about though, is the fact that the only other car that Twisted have decided to turn their hand to just happens to be one of these. You know, there's many other vehicles they could have gone for, and I think that speaks volumes. This is a car with a cult following already, and it'd be great to push it into a more luxurious world. People who are staunch Defender people, I think, have respect for the Jimny, of what it's capable of. Unless you're talking about towing a horse box, you know, it can do it all. One thing I've noticed is these are not heated, these seats, and I don't think you can get a Jimny commercial with heated seats, but you can get aftermarket heated seats. I mean, these two blanking panels here are the heated seat buttons for the non-commercial Jim. So I kind of would have liked, if you're going to go to the effort of all this amazing quilting and leather and stitching, I would have probably put heated seats in there, because why not? Open it up. Yeah, you get real boost after 4,000. Change at 6. That is an easy 70 miles an hour on a car which really wasn't happy about doing 70 miles an hour. I think Charles was absolutely right about the fact that there isn't really, you know, there isn't any logic to the cars that he sells and builds. But there sometimes doesn't have to be. I mean, there's no logic to a fast sports car, really. There's no logic to a fast-backed 2.5-ton SUV. Not really. So actually, these kinds of cars, you could argue, who needs logic? I mean, this doesn't lose any practicality. In fact, it makes it a much better driver's car with this turbo and this new damping setup. I am really enjoying this. As an ex-Jimny owner, I can tell you this drives significantly better. Significantly better. Yeah, this is a better Jimny. Open road cruising. The Jimny is only 5-speed, which always felt like it needed a 6, but you know, that would be an incredible amount of work. But this car cruises so much better because you have some power. And the gearbox is lovely to use, actually. But it's cornering like this. You can go in like that at 60 miles an hour, and you're not getting that rear kind of like lollopy lift. It's not doing that, but it still feels like a 4x4. It still feels like a Jimny. It's just been fine-tuned, and I guess that was the entire purpose of this car. So, a verdict then. While I'm putting some more miles on this Twisted Jim, what do I think of it? What do I really think? I think it's a wonderful car to have turned their attentions to, because I think it deserves it. It's such a fine product, this. I think it's a massive shame, and this is not a Twisted thing, I think it's a massive shame that Suzuki themselves no longer sell the passenger version, and I really hope that they reintroduce that with a different engine perhaps, or even the four-door, which is being talked about a lot. I think that on the one hand, it's a very, very expensive car. This is a 50 grand commercial vehicle that can only seat 2 people. But on the other, what's been done is really high quality, and I've really enjoyed being in a Suzuki Jimny that can actually go a bit quicker and actually rides that little bit tighter. Looks fantastic still. And yeah, you know, that brand, that Twisted badge holds so much weight for so many people. The residuals speak for themselves. So on that basis, I think it's a wonderful thing. Nostalgia is infectious and expensive. It's something we said earlier on in this video, and I do think that's the thing about the Jimny. It is a cult vehicle that's finally gained so much respect, even amongst the giants of the 4x4 world like this. Who would have thought 20 years ago that people would be spending £250,000 on an old Defender? But here we are. This is the world we're living in. It's funny, isn't it, how valuable cars that are fundamentally flawed can be, but the Jimny is a fantastic car. It's a modern day classic already, and the old Defender dinosaur, well, the values of them keep spiraling and keep spiraling, and that's proof that we love a car like this. And Twisted, as soon as they've put their plaque on a car, it's a brand which people seem to trust, and they know that not only will this handle well and be more comfortable, but you can go to town on that bespoke element which so many people seem to value. For me, I can take or leave the inside almost. I appreciate it, but the thing that I really love about the Twisted Jimny is the way it goes around corners, the way it rides, and the performance from that engine. It's transformed that little car. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Late Break Show. Let me know what you think about the Twisted Jimny, or even Twisted Land Rovers in general. I'm keen to know. Take care.